Welcome back. This is Vantage Warehouse in Spartanburg. I am Danielle Kaminsky, and today we are going to continue working on this cabinet. I have it turned to the side though, because we're going to focus on the side first. So, this is our August furniture makeover project here at Vintage Warehouse. We are using a lot of products that we carry here in the store. Last week we did our base coat with Midnight Blue Fusion Mineral Paint, and we used the Pennies from Heaven DIY Copper Patina. So we added the copper into all of our little crevices, and we used our VIP brush to do a really quick base coat with the Midnight Blue. We did it all around. Today we're going to start working on adding some layers, and we're going to be using DIY paint and Daydream Apothecary. So as you come on or pop on, we are live. We're using StreamYard, so we are live on Facebook and YouTube. If for some reason you start commenting and I'm not calling you by name, it's because in order for me to see your name, you have to give StreamYard permission to use like your name and your picture and all that kind of stuff. It's okay. You don't want to do that. That's cool. Just leave a comment. If you have any questions about any of the products I'm using, please feel free to ask. If you just have general questions, that's okay too. You feel free to ask those. I'm going to slide my little table over here with all my tools, and then I'm also going to grab the Daydream Apothecary, nope, not Daydream Apothecary, I'm sorry, the Bubblegum Yum decoupage paper that we're going to be adding next week, so that you can see the colors that we're working with, so that my color choices today will make sense, okay? So let me grab that. Slide my table over so that I can work. So this is the artisan decoupage paper from Bubblegum Yum that we sell here in the store. This is a 36 by 36 print, but it's a repeating print. So I actually have two of these that I purchased for this because I'm going to need to match them up. I'm going to have just a little bit space, more than one of these will cover. So I'm going to match up the pattern and add what I need to cover the entire back of this piece. But these are the colors. So you can see the navy background is why we chose our Midnight Blue for our base. So I have got some neons, some coral, and some pink. And we are going to use that to create some interesting layers. So put this behind me, out of the way, so that it doesn't get damaged at all. And today we are going to be using, breaking stuff first. Sorry. I have shoes on. Doesn't really help, does it? Doesn't help you. The noise I just made, I apologize. I will get a broom back here when I'm done. And in the meantime, I will just have to be very careful. Okay. So I have a couple of glass containers that I was going to use to mix up some paint. Still have two, so we'll be all right. And I've got a couple of plates to mix things on. But again, we are creating layers on top of this navy blue to go with that print that we're going to be putting in the back next week. So as you pop on, please say hey, let me know if you're watching. If you're new around here, let me know that too. If you're local, I'd love to know that too. All right, we're going to bring you down some so you can see a little bit more. And then I'm going to, take myself down lower. Love these little mechanics tools. They're so convenient. Okay, so we're going over this navy. We want it to look really good and match in the back. Now, on the inside here, I'm going to add a second coat. I've already gone over everything with one coat. I'm going to go back when we're done with these layers today. And on the inside, I'm just going to do a second coat of this Midnight Blue to just kind of frame out that artisan print. We've got glass shelves and glass doors that'll go back in when that's done. But on the sides and on the front, everything outside, we're definitely going to be adding some layers. So here's what we're working with today, okay? I have got Ground Control, which is the white base and mixing medium from DIY or from Daydream Apothecary. Okay, so we're using DIY paint and Daydream Apothecary. So if I say something that is some strange bastardized version of those words, that's what I'm trying to say. Those are the two product lines that we carry here in the store that I'm using today. So I am opening some new paint. I have used a lot of what I already had at home, so I have got myself some new paint to use here at the store. So that's the Ground Control. So it's a stark white paint. So it's a mixing medium, but it's also just white paint. It's great. I've used it on canvas, and I tell you, it is so white. Like, it is white, white, white. Purest white I've ever seen. All right, then we're also going to use the La La Love Ya, which is the pink fluorescent from Daydream Apothecary. And opening these for use here at the shop because I'm going through mine at home pretty quickly. So that is our La La Love Ya. That's the fluorescent pink. And you can use it just like that, but we're going to mix it up today, and I'm going to show you some really cool colors that you can make with that. Okay. And then we're also going to be using Sundance from Daydream Apothecary, which is their neon fluorescent orange, which is quickly becoming one of my favorite colors. It's really, really fun bright orange. Okay. We are also using Cowgirl Coral from DIY Paint. Second, let me get this open. You have very likely seen this color before if you've been around these parts. It's one that we love. Almost a perfect match for the flowers in that background. And then Petticoat Pink, which is a really gorgeous baby pink. So these are all the colors that we're using. And we're going to mix some of them together, okay? So first things first, we know we need some coral. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take this brush. So I borrowed some brushes today. And I borrowed brushes from women after my own heart who have just as much paint gunked up on their handle as I do. It makes me happy. Okay. I'm going to do some really light dry brushing with this coral for my first layer. And I'm literally just like barely getting any on the edge. That's all the paint I'm going on with it first. Now, if you have a hard time with that, you can always get a little more on and then brush some off with like a paper towel. Sorry, I'm lost for words today. All right, so can you guys see what I'm doing? Let's get you close enough. Maybe bring you down a little bit more. Okay. All right, and I'm going to go up and down with my strokes, but I'm just going to do really light dry brushing here just to add some of this coral. And when you do this really light dry brush technique, you're just going to get little bits of color here and there, and it's just going to be just like that. So that's what I'm doing. So this requires a really light hand. That's all the paint I'm working with at a time. Super light hand. And don't worry, at first, the first time you do it, it's going to look, I remember my friend Mitzi, I don't know if she's watching today or not, but we were talking about with dry brushing, when you first start, it can be really easy to get like a, what did we call it? Like a leopard print, a leopard effect. If that makes any sense. But again, the trick is super, super light. Light-handed, light paint application. And I like to go back and forth in the same direction at first, but then I'll come back and do this too, so that it won't look quite so stripey. So work all the way down here. All right. And this is just my first layer. If this is all I was doing, I would probably go even lighter. But I'm going to be adding lots of layers, and I want to make sure that some of this really shows through. The angle at which you're painting can make a difference in how much is coming off of your brush. I've got more coming off down here at the bottom than I intended. So what I'll probably do is add a little bit more up top, or just cover that really good with the next layers so that it's not so noticeable. So I like to get a little bit going in all directions. So now that we've got a lot going up and down, now we're going to come and move it back and forth a little. our base layer is Fusion Mineral Paint. Okay, and stay with me. I know we're in the kind of ugly stage, that preteen stage, so to speak. But stick with me because it gets better. Where's my? I don't have my spray bottle. That's okay. I don't need a spray bottle. I don't think. We'll see. So this is DIY paint on top of Fusion Mineral Paint. So Fusion Mineral Paint has a built-in top coat. So even if I re-wet it right now, it's not going to come off. At this point, it has been drying for a week. It's not going to come off. The DIY, on the other hand, if I decided this right here was too much, let me show you. So I've got some Clorox wipes. So if I wanted to, okay, now I've got a clump of Clorox wipes. You guys, come on now. That's what happens when you're trying to work with one hand. Maybe I should put the brush down. So I'm doing this, and I went a little heavy right here, heavier than I intended. So if I wanted to take some of that off, I could just wipe it off. So DIY paint reactivates with water. Really easy soap and water cleanup. So there you go. I just took that big spot off. Now I can come back to my brush and real lightly kind of go back over it, brush it around a little bit, make it not so noticeable. Right? So I could do that. I could do that on the bottom too if I wanted to. But like I said, I want it to be a little bit different in some different places. So I'm kind of okay. And this is only the first layer. There's going to be lots of layers. But I still want a lot of this blue to show through. We could even add more blue at some point in the process. But right now, I'm mostly thinking. So again, just really light-handed application when you're doing this. As little paint on your brush as possible. You would rather come back and add more in layers. And see right now, this is still wet. So that's why it's smearing the way it is. All right. I'm going to take this, wipe that down. All right, we'll let that dry a little bit and I'll come back and go the other direction, but we can fix that. So again, super dry brushing at this point. Another thing that you can do if you're trying to do like a dry brush technique, but you're just using two colors. First time I ever did like a whitewash dry brush kind of technique, I just painted, not super heavy handed, light handed still, but then I just went back over it with cloth like this and wiped off what I didn't want there. All right. So we're going to focus, we're going to stop there for now because we're going to focus just on this bottom half so I can kind of show you the look that we're going for, okay? Now, next color. For the next color that we're going to mix up, I'm going to have just a dollop of our white. And I'm going to add this Sundance. So this is the fluorescent orange from Daydream Apothecary. I want to do a lot more of that than white. Okay. So this doesn't have measurements on it, but I'm going to say this is probably 2 parts of the orange Sundance to 1 part of the white ground control from Daydream Apothecary. Now, I don't have lids for this because I'm a crazy person and I didn't think to bring lids. So I'm just going to use my palette knife to mix this up. But mixing the fluorescence, when you use the white as a base for your fluorescence, what you do or for your neons, is you're taking away the fluorescent quality. So when you mix it with the white, it tones it down a little bit, makes it not quite as bright because you're adding that white layer in there, makes it show up, makes it a little more opaque. So if you've ever used, think of neons like a highlighter. If you have words on a piece of paper and you go over it with highlighter, you can see through the highlighter. If you first cover up those words with, say, like a whiteout or something like that, and then you highlight over the whiteout, then you just see the color. Same concept. If you use white as a base and then use the neon over it, the neon has a little bit more oomph in it, if that makes any sense. And if you mix white with it, it changes the color just a smidge, but it also gives you stain powder. So now when I paint with this, you're not going to be able to see through it. Okay? All right. So I mixed it up. That's what it looks like all mixed up. And I'm going to do the same technique. I'm going to take my brush in there, just a little bit on the edges of my bristles. Oh, so I got a little too much. So I'm going to show you, when you get a little too much like that, you just take a plate or whatever and just kind of rub a little bit off. And then it's going to get it back where you need it to be. Okay? So now I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to go this way first. All right. That color is not coming off much different than the original coral that we used. So I'm going to go straight. I'm going to go straight fluorescent here and see what happens. Yeah. All right. That's a little more. That's a little more what I'm looking for there. Okay. So that's kind of giving you an idea. Okay. So now all right, next thing I'm going to do is take some of this petticoat pink. Truly just a touch of it. And mix it with this La La Love Ya. Okay. I'm using my spatula for this one. So I'm just mixing it up. Again, it's going to tone down the pink just a little bit, but I'm using a baby pink instead of a white so that I can really kind of keep that pink color, pink pigment happening. Now this is not the same color, this in the rest of everything. All right, so we've toned it down some. We've given it some staying power. Still pretty pink, but not quite as neon. It's a little more bubblegum now. And off of my hand. So I will use a spatula to apply paint sometimes, like a rubber spatula. You can use putty knives and all kinds of other things, but I like the flexibility that you get in a spatula. So I really want, it's thin, so it's slinging. I really want to add a fair amount of this, which is why I'm using a spatula. And some of you are probably thinking, oh my God, that is crazy looking. Again, this is just a layer. You've got to trust me and stay with me here. This is also fluorescent, so as I'm rubbing it in like this with this rubber spatula, it's not pulling off paint beneath it, but this pink is really popping into some of the texture in this wood and picking up on some of the texture of the paint layers beneath it. So this is really brightening up the piece, giving it some character. Because it is a fluorescent color, I can do this and pull it back and you're still seeing that navy that's showing through. So this is an instance where I'm not particularly light-handed. So again, this is rubber, not metal. If this were a stiff metal putty knife, I would not be going this hard with it because I would not want to risk scratching the paint beneath. You guys see where I'm going with this? It's kind of awesome, isn't it? So when we get done with this piece, we're going to be we'll be finishing it off with some interesting waxes. We'll probably use we'll definitely use a little bit of the gold wax. And we'll also use, and I say gold wax, probably not. We're probably actually going to mix up some copper patina in our clear wax, maybe. Get some of that copper pigment in there because that's what we used on the underneath, so we want to bring that back through. Or I may just get the copper wax. Oh no, I've got rose gold. So we'll use the rose gold wax. So Fusion Mineral Paint makes some metallic waxes. One of them is a rose gold that I think will look nicely over this. And the rose gold is basically a mixture of copper and pearl from Fusion. I remember before they actually came out with rose gold, that was exactly what I did when I wanted rose gold, was I used copper and pearl, and they were beautiful, and I loved it. So with the wax, kind of the same thing. We'll use that copper metallic wax to add. Ooh, that was pretty. To add some shimmer and shine. Really loving the effect of this pink on top of everything. You can still see the navy through it. You can still see some of that dry brush texture through it. Like I said, we're going to continue to add and do some different things, but this is where we are. This is going to be pretty wild looking when we get done today. And then we'll be adding even more layers next week and adding our decoupage paper for bubblegum gum. So the key to this, in case you're like, oh my gosh, that would never happen if I used a spatula to apply paint. You just get a little bit on the end. On one side usually, or at least just a little bit on both sides. And then you just kind of lightly smear it around. You don't put it all in one place at first. And then once you get it off the spatula, then you start really working the spatula to really kind of spread the paint around and create some interesting texture. And it's, again, because this is that thinner neon base paint, it's really becoming transparent, translucent in some places, and adding a lot of character and texture on the side of this piece. So you guys, if you're watching, comment. Let me know that you're watching. I would love to hear from you guys and hear what you think. Although, like I said, I know some of you at this moment are thinking, I just want to see where this is going. All right. So what I can't show you right now because it's still drying, but right now, the Fusion Mineral has the built-in acrylic, right? It has the built-in acrylic polymers that give it that top coat. So it's not going anywhere. These other paints that I use, we've got DIY and we've got a mixture of the DIY and the Daydream Apothecary. And the fluorescent, the bright aspect of these neons is not going to go away when I wax it. However, it does deepen the color of the others, and it will add back a little bit of transparencies where some of this has dried a little matte. So you're actually going to see even more of the blue coming through this when we add that. But for now, I kind of want to add another layer. I want to add some drips is what I want to add, and I don't have my water bottle. Let me see real quick. Really want water, you guys. Hang on one second. Just a little bit. Well, I love it. I'm back. Hey, somebody stuck with me. My friend Alicia's painting on the other side of the wall, so I stole her water bottle since I couldn't find mine. So we are going to add some drips. And I think I want to add this petticoat pink because it's light. It's not white, but we've got some cream. We've got some cream in this bubblegum yum, and I don't really want white, so I think we're going to use this really, really pale pink. how that goes, okay? So, let's see here. This, clean this palette knife. Let's see what happens. What kind of paint this is. Sorry. I should have done this before we got started. If you have palette knives that you need to clean off, if you have multiple palette knives, you can use them to clean one another. But of course, if you only have the one, then you either have to use your nails or you have to run it under really, really hot water or soap or whatever the case may be. All right. So again, all the products that I'm using are available if you're interested at shop.vintagewarehousegartenberg.com. Today we are playing with DIY paint and Daydream Apothecary paint, and we're adding layers on this piece. The base coat is Midnight Blue from Fusion Mineral Paint, and then we're using all of these colors because this is our decoupage paper that's going in the back of the cabinet. Okay? Sorry, I think I might have got a piece of glass in the shoe. I'm gonna have a mess to clean up. All right, so Belish's water bottle, got a clean palette knife. I don't want too much at first because I don't want to overdo it. I'm just gonna spray. And add this. Since it's wet, it'll want to run anyway. But I'm just gonna kind of add just a little bit more water and just encourage a little bit of movement. From here, I can go up. One. So that actually helps. It's giving us drips, which is cool. I like drips, but it's also toning it down a bit. So that's what we're going to keep doing. We're just going to keep taking this light color, spreading it on here with a palette knife, spraying it with water so that it wants to move, and then moving the palette knife some more to move the paint around so that we don't have clumps. And in doing that, we can still show some of the pops. If you really scrape with it a little bit, you can see what's happening there. You can see some of that. Well, you may not be able to see that from that distance. Sorry. Let's get you in here. As I do this, we're actually scraping back enough that you can see some of that pink, some of that Daydream. And the more we spray it, the thinner it's going to get, and the more it's going to move. The more translucent it's going to be. Love watching paint move around with water. It's one of my favorite things to do. And again, one of the reasons I'm able to do this right now with this metal art knife is because my under layer there is fusion mineral paint, and then the Daydream Apothecary doesn't move quite as much as the DIY does. You can do these same finishes with DIY paint, but you have to be much gentler because when you get DIY paint wet, it reactivates it, which is great for blending and moving paint around. But if you get a layer just how you want it and you don't want it to move, with DIY, you need to seal it before you go on to the next layer. So seal it with either Big Top or liquid patina or something so that it doesn't move once you feel like you're done with it. So I feel like we're kind of giving it a little bit of a cloud effect here, which is fun. What do you guys think so far? I'm going to keep going down this side with this pink. I'm feeling like after pulling that paper out again that I'm going to want some more orange. And like I said, we're definitely going to use some waxes to tone it. And I feel like I either want to tone it darker or just add a whole lot of shimmer, or maybe both. Maybe I'll use a dark wax and then let the wax be a resist and add some metallic. That's a fun idea. Real quick before I start adding on more, I'm going to grab a cloth. So when you're working with water like this, if you have a lip, it's going to pull. So down here on the bottom where I've got this water sitting, I'm going to go ahead and take a paper towel, a shop towel, and soak some of that up. Because while fusion is great about not reactivating, you let it sit in water long enough before it's cured and it's going to come off. So this way, I'm just making sure that I don't lose the paint that's down there on the bottom underneath those layers. Okay. So I see that I've got folks watching. Is anybody freaking out right now? Because I feel like this is the time that most people would be going, what in the heck is she doing? And I do promise that it's just a stage. It's going to look really awesome when it's done. But I'm just curious. What are you guys thinking so far? Do you like the colors? Do you have questions about any of the paints? Do you want to tell Danielle how crazy she is? These are all options. So you guys, StreamYard is not showing me any comments right now. So I don't know if that's because you guys aren't commenting or if it's just not showing me. So if you are commenting and I'm not answering, I'm sorry. I'll come back afterwards and I'll answer your questions. I'm about to have to get down on the floor. It's a lot of fun. I can't get down on the floor because I broke glass. Okay. We might have to call it right here for a minute because, you know, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in getting glass in the rear end. Okay. This is where we are right now. Seriously considering it's barely dry. Let's see something real quick. Maybe. I'm gonna test something real quick. So I've got my rose gold wax, which that's what it looks like in the container, but it doesn't go on nearly so bold. It's just got a light shimmer to it. So it'll definitely add shimmer. And it'll definitely bring some of this out. We'll see. We'll see. Again, I could also, I'm gonna have to play with some waxes here because I'll probably clear wax everything first so that I can play on top of it and play with the textures and whatnot. Because I'm kind of thinking that maybe I want some dark waxes and then some shimmer. I don't know. We'll see. We're gonna play. We're gonna play with waxes for sure. We'll be doing that week after next. I'll be doing that some between now and then as well. But yeah, this is super funky, and it probably feels like, oh my gosh, that can't possibly be how she's gonna leave it. And don't worry, it's not. But this has to dry before I do anything else because I think the rest of what I'm gonna do is really gonna involve waxes. So I'm going to finish working on this, and I'm going to finish this afternoon working my way around this piece. But that's what we're working with. So again, this is the scary step. This is the scary step that most people are like, what in the world are you doing? But we are creating something really fun and funky and drippy. Lots of layers, lots of color. We're going to go back and add waxes to really even it out and make it fun. And then we're going to have that piece in the back. So I promise this is going to be so cool when we're done. You guys mark my words. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, she told me and I didn't believe her. Okay. All right, you guys. Y'all have a great week. We will be back next week, Thursday, 3 o'clock here on the Vintage Warehouse Spartanburg Facebook and YouTube channels. So next week we are going to be adding our Bubblegum Yum print to the back of this cabinet. And we are probably going to go ahead and start experimenting with a few layers of our finishing techniques to really make this bad boy look great. I say that, probably not. Well, yeah. I'll give you a little peek next week, but then the week after is when we're really going to finish it up and it'll be done. Okay. So y'all have a great week. We'll see you back here next week at 3. Okay. Bye.